Hello, and welcome everyone. I'm Peter Allen Clark, and it's great to have you with us for another eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and martech. Today we'll be taking a first look at Braze's state of customer engagement research, including where AI is moving the needle, how AI paired with human touch can enhance customer experiences, the brands getting it right, and more. I'm joined now by my guests from Braze, including Pranay Jain, Vice President of Market Strategy, joining us from San Francisco. Hello, Pranay. How are you doing today?
Hey Peter, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
Great. Thanks so much for being here. And I'm also joined by Mallory Friese, Senior Director, Content Marketing, who's also in from San Francisco. How are you doing today, Mallory?
Doing great and very excited to be here. Thank you, Peter.
I'm so excited to hear this presentation. But before we get started, I want to remind our audience that we want to hear from you and to keep this conversation interactive. You can use the chat window to the right to tell us where you're joining from, ask questions for the end of the program, and engage with your peers. Mallory, the floor is yours. Excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Peter. And hi to everybody who's joined us. Really appreciate you taking the time to hear a little bit about the current marketing landscape and some of the key findings and trends we've discovered from our research in the 2026 Customer Engagement Review. We're going to share insights today on how you as marketers can win in this agentic era in the future. And of course, we will leave time for Q&A at the end. So really encourage you not to be shy. Send us your answers in the chat. We would love to hear from you. So let's begin by talking a little bit about the current landscape. I think for all of us marketers, it feels a bit like the sand is shifting beneath our feet. We are experiencing one of the most disruptive, significant changes to marketing since the mobile revolution. And as consumer behavior shifts from search to AI-driven answers, that direct line that we've had to our customers is starting to feel a little bit blurry. And we're moving into the era of agent to agent buying, where soon it's not just going to be people who are browsing your products and your site, it'll be their AI agents who are doing research and buying for them. So, Pranay, you're talking to marketers all the time who are in the thick of this every single day. What are you hearing from them?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it well at the beginning with the mobile revolution. All of this is defining and changing the definition of a customer engagement actually means to our customers, right? The touch points that you all have as marketers, as brands with your customers is ever changing and it's increasing rapidly, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today. But instead of being paralyzed by that, I would actually ask that this is a massive opportunity for you and brands to innovate how you actually connect with these customers. In times of disruption like this, like we saw in the mobile revolution, it's actually a competitive advantage to yours if you can figure out how to use these new technologies, embed them in your day-to-day activities, and connect with your customers in a more deep way. Mobile created an environment where you could talk to your customers in a more meaningful way because it could be more personalized. And I think AI and agents only extrapolates that further, and we're going to get into more of those details today. But these types of opportunities in the market and time are competitive advantages if you use them the right way.
I totally agree. It can be anxiety producing to be experiencing so much change. But like you said, we've kind of been through it before. But hopefully, what we'll talk about today will give our audience a little bit more confidence to move forward. Because, I think what we're hoping to share is what's working for marketers and how are consumers actually feeling about AI? And then what does that information suggest about the future of AI-driven customer engagement? So we conducted a survey recently of thousands of marketing decision makers and consumers across the globe. We also analyzed aggregated Braze data from 6 billion users, and we talked to brands that are leading the way in AI innovation. And the findings in our 2026 customer engagement review paint a really vivid picture of how brands can stand out by balancing the speed and the scale that AI enables with human-led creativity. And our analysis suggests that over the next 5 years, brands resourcing their strategies and their technology stacks will be tested against one of these four potential futures for AI and marketing. And they kind of range from an agentic future where AI is the primary conduit between brands and consumers to a great disillusionment, where AI is viewed as a failed experiment. And what we're seeing from our research is that currently we find ourselves in what we're calling a risk mitigation loop. And what I mean by that is AI has tremendous capability, but that's clashing with low consumer trust. So 95% of marketing leaders expect AI to drive business growth, but 43% of consumers still aren't comfortable with its use. Pranay, what does this information suggest to you about the future? Do you think we will continue to be in this risk mitigation loop, or is your sense that we'll graduate to an agentic future or even potentially backslide into disillusionment with AI?
Yeah, I mean, if I could answer that question, I would be a billionaire. So I hope I could, but no, there's no crystal ball here, right? But I would say that if you think about it, AI is here to stay. Like it's gotten enough traction that it's not going anywhere. So the idea that we're going to go backslide into disillusionment, I think that would be pretty ironic at this point, unless something catastrophic happened, of course. But I really do think that it's here to stay. Now, does it get all the way to like the fully agentic future and it's just agents talking to agents and everything's out of our hands? I don't know yet, and I don't think we'll ever know until it actually happens. But there's a lot that can be happening, and it's already transforming marketing, right? Like all of you are probably using AI in some capability today to do some of your marketing material, whether it's copy development, whether it's testing, testing of those copies, or doing a multitude of different things. And so, and your consumers, by the way, your customers are already adopting it, right? We talked about this earlier. They're using agents to go learn about your products. They're using agents to go make the buying decisions, et cetera, et cetera. So in that sense, it's already here. So you have to learn how you're going to go embrace it and use it to your advantage. Going back to the earlier topic that we had that we were talking about at the beginning, but it's also moving really fast, and so it's probably the fastest technology change I've ever experienced in my life. Of like something that would work one week could be fundamentally different the next week, and so that's a lot for everyone to keep up with. But it begs the question that you still have to try something. You still have to get into it because that's the only way you're going to get through it. And how you choose to engage and educate your customers about the value that the AI can bring. Those are all the strategies that you need to start thinking about so that we can actually get to that promised land.
So I'm going to play this back, but you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Is the biggest risk not that the technology fails, but rather that brands kind of play it too safe, they miss this window to experiment with what works and take this chance to redefine what customer relationships look like?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think one of the things that I've seen over my career is that the reason why brands and marketers maybe didn't adopt the technology in the past, whether that was mobile or now AI, it was because the technology that they were trying to adopt actually failed them. So like the first time they tried it, if you even go back to the first time you tried ChatGPT or one of the many LLMs and you asked it a question, it didn't respond back exactly with what you were looking for. Think of your own personal experience. You probably tuned it off. You're like, this isn't good enough. It's just not good enough yet, right? And so you get disillusioned by it. And the more times that happens, you get further disillusioned. And so marketers or brands that are trying to do abandoned cart messages that then went to the wrong people because their data failed them and the data didn't process fast enough. So the email went to Mallory, you to buy something that you just purchased. Like everyone's been there. It was the right strategy, the right intent, but the technology failed you. And then that curbed your ability to experiment and try something new in the future. And so to me, it's actually not that the technology is failing or one of these two things. It's actually the combination thereof. It creates this sort of negative feedback loop of when technology fails us, we're less, we're more risk adverse to trying it again because it didn't work. And so then we don't want to do it again. And then therefore we don't want to experiment with the next thing and the next thing. And one of the things with AI that's happened is that because of those early failures or because it wasn't good enough the first time, some people are in that disillusionment camp and they're like, hey, I don't want to do this. And that's where some of your consumers are, which is why I think you're seeing the 43% number and they're not comfortable with its use because they don't see it working. But at the same time, there's people that are powering through that and learning and deciding that, oh, just because it didn't work literally last week and now it's going to work this week, I got to try it again. And that's where the speed of AI is fundamentally different, right? I think in other technology shifts, if it didn't work last week, you could wait like 3 months. But in AI, it's like if you did try it last week, you got to try it again this week because it could have fundamentally changed, or your prompt could have changed, or right. And so it's that combination that has to kind of come together. But you got to try something. You got to start because it's moving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've never seen anything like it. Just the speed of change, like you said, is so aggressive. So yeah, to all of you listening, hopefully some of what Pranay is describing you can relate to. And we have to have some level of comfort with experimentation right now. But let's move into the first finding and trend from our study, which is that AI, yes, is helping brands anticipate trends and customer needs, but brands really know a lot less than they want to at the moment. Data challenges have created a pretty major gap between marketer perceptions and consumer experience when it comes to AI. Technologies like reinforcement learning, for example, have really convinced the market that brands using AI, we automatically know our customers better. But the survey results are telling a much different story. They're revealing a really critical trust gap between what businesses believe AI delivers and what customers are actually experiencing. 93% of marketing leaders believe AI helps them accurately understand customer needs, but only 53% of consumers agree. And this is further complicated by consumers' reluctance to share their data without a really clear value exchange. In fact, 27% of consumers currently refuse to share any data with AI agents, even when they're promised with a superior or a more personalized experience. So, Pranay, in this world where AI needs more and more data to be effective, how should marketers balance that need for data with the increasing consumer demand for privacy and for trust?
It's a problem, and it's something that brands definitely have to figure out. But this is where I'll go back to not everything has to be brand new and shiny. We've solved this problem before. And so I'll take you back to the mobile revolution. And we talked about this as the next big phase from that. But back in the mobile revolution days, one of the things that we used to talk to marketers and brands about all the time was how do you get permissions for things like location or push notifications or other things, those prompts that you would get when you'd first start up the app, right? A lot of times you would get all these system prompts right when you open up the app. There's not a good value exchange right at that moment. I just downloaded your app. I don't even know what your app does half the time. And so what we used to encourage marketers to do is think about what's the right moment in the customer journey to ask for that data or ask for that permission. And so for an e-commerce brand, it might have been that location and push notifications and getting your SMS phone number is actually more in tune to getting it after the order was complete because I'm more likely to want to track my package and get notifications about where it's at. If I'm a ticketing software company, maybe it's about actually asking for location permissions when the event's about to happen. So when I'm at the arena, I get location permission so that I know what entrance to go to or where to go get food and drinks and all those different things, right? And so what we always found is that you want to have a value exchange with your customers because if there's a clear, just demonstrable value for that data, then when you ask for it, people are way more likely to give it to you. And so I think in the AI world, it's the same story, right? You need to think about why you want that data. And it can't be just as fluffy as I'm going to make the experience better. They all know that. That's table stakes. But like specifically what is that going to do? Or even better yet, showcasing how it looks better to say, do you want more of this? Please share this or please share that. And we've seen other things where you can do a lot of hand wavy things to figure out what kind of football fan I am, or you can just ask me, right? And if you were to look at where I grew up, you would actually end up knowing that seeing that I might be a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I'm not. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and that's because I went to school in Pittsburgh. But you might not know that, right? Because if you look at my phone number, it's a Texas phone number from Dallas, right? And so there's things like that where it's actually just better to ask the customer, and we've seen that work a lot in the early phases of mobile and being able to ask those things, but then taking action on them immediately creates a better experience. And so it's part of that same thing, and data is obviously very critical to AI. But the more transparent, the more you can share the reasoning behind it. There's a way to do this in a privacy transparent way, which I think your consumers will reward you for if you do that the right way.
I think the comparison you are making to, what we've already kind of done to solve for some of the change that came with the mobile revolution is really helpful. Um, it's like transparency. Let's be upfront with customers about the data we're collecting and what it's being used for and how it will improve their experience very specifically. And also giving our consumers and our customers control of how that data is used. Preference centers and surveys are still important. Consumers need to really feel like they're the decision maker. All right, let's move on to our second trend. I think most of us can relate to using LLMs more and more, like ChatGPT or Claude or Google Gemini, and potentially AI agents too, to interact with brands for us and manage our digital lives. But this is sparking a lot of concern from brands. We don't want to lose that direct connection that we have to our customers. 63% of marketing leaders reported that this AI intermediation has weakened their ability to connect with customers and maintain a direct relationship. It's important to also note what is motivating consumers to use AI in this way. The top two reasons that we saw in our study, consumers say they're adopting AI agents to get better access to deals and discounts. That was about 35% of people, and better discovery of new products and services. That came in at about 32%. Pranay, I would love to hear from you now on what should marketers be doing to successfully maintain and even strengthen their customer relationships in this new reality?
Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, I think this is where I go back to AI is here to stay. One way of this would be if I believe that AI is not here to stay, then my answer to you would be drive them, make your direct relationship even better and drive them there, and you're going to be able to outwin the AI. I don't think that's reality. The stats show it already. It's AI is here to stay. They're going to go find out about your products and your deals and your discounts through AI. So instead of fighting that, I think you have to lean into that and actually make that another source of data for your brands. And I think it was really interesting with what ChatGPT's done with their like app ecosystem and how they've actually opened up that garden and giving brands actually direct access to some of those signals. You as a marketer and a brand have to take on that. You have to start to put that as part of your ecosystem, just like you built a mobile app, just like you had a website. I mean, go back even before mobile, before when websites became a thing, right? First you had to have a website. You had to be where your customers were at. If your customers are going to be on the internet, literally, you need to be on the internet too. If your customers are going to be in an app, you need to be in an app too. If your customers are going to be inside of LLMs and agents, you need to be there as well, right? And so you need to be able to take that on and then expand your frontier of what your first party signals can be to continue to understand what your consumers and your brand, your customers are actually doing with you as a brand, and then take those signals in and act upon them. And so we're really encouraged with how that ecosystem is evolving. Either way it evolved, we thought that was an important strategy, and we've leaned in to ensure that our brands and customers that use our products at least can go have those signals come in. Now, that being said, it doesn't preclude us to also make your direct experience better, right? That's still a thing that you can do and should continue to pursue to do, because that's obviously going to be the biggest area of narrative control that you're going to have is on your own website or your own app or your own, collateral. And so that doesn't mean that you stop doing that. It just means that you have to do that plus the other stuff, and the other stuff has to influence how you bring your direct experience to be better. Right. And there's just going to be different things that you're going to be able to provide that the LLMs are not. And you have to find those magic customer moments that you can bring together so that your loyal fans and your loyalty members can come straight to you, et cetera. But the idea that you're going to drive 100% of your traffic out of the LLMs, I think that's a losing battle. And I wouldn't spend a bunch of energy trying to fight that. I would actually lean in and figure out how you can coexist.
I think you're totally right. And just in my specific world of marketing, content marketing, I think this is so relevant. It's not a question of do we lean in and accept the reality that AI platforms are curating buying decisions. It's a question of how quickly can we lean in and kind of embrace that reality. All right, so our final trend is really a reminder to us all that AI is an amplifier for marketers, but it's not a replacement for our discernment and our creativity. Because what we found is that when AI lacks a human touch, consumers feel disappointed and they feel frustrated. And so this drives home the fact that as marketers, our creativity still matters. It's still at the center of delivering exceptional customer engagement and customer experiences. But from your perspective, Pranay, what do you think is holding marketers back when it comes to making AI-driven experiences feel authentic to their brand and feel personal and human?
Yeah, I mean, I think without the right strategy and the right context and the right technology and the actually technology infrastructure, this becomes hard. I used to use this example all the time. If I wave to you, most of you are gonna wave back. If I say hello to you, most of you are gonna say hello back. That's just a human nature. The conversations we have as humans back and forth, they're reactionary. But guess what? If I said hello to you and then 10 minutes later said hello back, that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel conversational. And that's what I mean by like real time and connected and being cross channel of like waving is different than saying hello and mirroring what your customers are doing. You have to be able to do that. That's what actually makes things feel more personal and human. Sure, knowing my name's Pranay obviously helps, but actually just being more interactive with me as a person is actually going to up level things and make it feel like you're in tune with what I'm wanting. And so the the LLMs are really good at some aspects of that because they have all this data for you. But you as a brand have to take that and make all your interactions connected to make those things action. And in order to take advantage of the AI driven experiences, you need an engine that's going to be able to react in real time across all the different places that your customers are at and be able to go do those things. And so that's where those things come together, in my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, totally we need to have the right behavioral triggers in place for to land. Um, and I would add, you know, AI is such an incredible tool for scaling like message creation and test variations, but there is still, an element to bringing your creativity to bear there as a marketer, and that human review and human discernment again just cannot be replaced, at least at this point. Although there are a lot of great tools to help augment our talents on that front. Pranay, I also wanted to hear, I think the way that different generations are experiencing this technology looks pretty different. So, what are you noticing in terms of like how different generations are experiencing and responding to AI-driven marketing?
Yeah, of course it's different, right? Different people are using different things. I mean, you look at college students today that are in an AI first world. I can only imagine how their classrooms and learning is completely augmented from when I was there. But I'll use a personal story that really like hit home for me as we were putting some of this content together. I have a 4-year-old daughter at home, and when I used to do bedtime with her early on, she would give me like two or three different topic areas, and I would have to sit there and come up with a story, and I did that for a few weeks, and then I was like, light bulb, let me try this GPT thing on that. And then I would take her story, take her three prompts, I would put it into the GPT. Within seconds, I would have a story for a toddler for bedtime. So I took all that context in. I'd have a short little story because no one wants to read 10 minutes of a story at bedtime. And I would deliver it to her. And then it became a series and it was a whole chapter. And I was like, which characters do you want to revisit? And so right now we're visiting Zippy, and Zippy's a little robot inside of a circuit, and it goes around fixing circuits because she asked me about circuits one day. And so it's like, you know, the creativity is still there. She's the one still directing the story. She's still the human involved. She's still deciding what she wants to experience. At the end of the day, it's still a human story for her, but the creativity's there, but the output of being able to come up with it so quickly is the AI driven part of it. But that's her world. She's not going to know another world. She's going to expect that anyone should be able to build a story within seconds based on what she wants to hear. Whereas, you and I grew up and like you heard what you heard. Like you didn't get to like invent it, or you had to invent it. And then obviously that was creativity too, but her creativity can be even more expansive. So they're AI augmented from the beginning at this point. And look, you can have all the different conversations. Is that good or is that bad or all these different things? The reality is that's what's happening. And so how do you still infuse the human element though? I think is really, really critical, right? Because that's what's gonna like be the unlock for all of it. It's not just on autopilot. It's still a an input into the whole thing.
Yeah, and I would first of all love that anecdote about your daughter. I'm gonna have to steal that for my 2.5-year-old son. But I think, it's just a reminder to us all that, um, yeah, like the AI is. I've heard it put this way by a customer of ours. AI is the car, but we still have to drive the car, and we still have to make the decisions. So hopefully that's encouraging for everybody. And if you're a parent listening in, you've got a new fun activity to do with your kid tonight. So before we move over to Q&A, we just have one more slide to share. If you take away three things from this conversation, I hope you all can remember that, marketers, we are seeing positive impacts when it comes to using AI for customer engagement. But again, many consumers aren't yet seeing those benefits and are skeptical about sharing their data. So let's make it easy for them to trust us with that information and make sure that in exchange for that information, we're providing really relevant experiences. And second, agent to agent brand interactions are here to stay. You heard Pranay say it a few times. So our suggestion is let's lean in here as marketers. Let's meet our customers where they are. And again, make sure that the direct relationships are truly adding value. And lastly, AI is just not enough. Content's being produced at an unprecedented scale today. It's creating a ton of digital noise. Brands are sort of blending in with each other in the market. So only the exchanges that really resonate with consumers on a human level are going to stand out. And my final question for you, Pranay, is if you could advise the folks on this call on an action that you think they should take in the next, I don't know, 90 days, what would that be?
Um, I think I would say that just pick something up and try it. Whatever tool set you have or whatever different frameworks you have, you just have to try this stuff and you have to try it week over week. It goes back to like just because it didn't work last week doesn't mean that it won't work this week. And you have to kind of just just keep playing with it. It's like you're a kid again. You got to pick up the toys and you got to build it, and your Legos are going to fall apart, but you got to try it again, right? And look, as vendors, as technologists, we have to do a better job to make it easier to on ramp, and I think that's something that we're going to continue to do, and you're going to continue to see that that the activation energy is reduced so that the experimentation can become easier. But it is also going to be up to you all as marketers to take the first step as well.
I think that's great advice. Peter, I will hand it back over to you, and hopefully we've got some questions from our great attendees.
Thanks so much, Mallory and Pranay. That was a great presentation. I thought it was super fascinating, from the mitigation loop to that trust gap between marketing leaders believing that AI helped them understand customers and customers who think brands may miss the mark. I really thought there was a lot in there, and I'm sure our audience really agrees. We do have a few questions from the audience, and so let's go ahead and get straight to this Q&A. Pranay, maybe I'll direct this first one to you. How do we use AI to scale our personalization efforts without without it starting to feel like spam or losing our brand voice?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this is the same conversation we've had for everything. I don't think AI is doing anything new in that arena. Like you still always have to stay true to your messaging so you're not spamming everyone. You could have done this with email, you could have done it with SMS, you could have done it with push notifications. So it's not anything net new. I think AI just has the added advantage of potentially making it faster to go do those things. But I also would look at it the other way around is that it also can help cut the noise out because you can be a lot more personalized in your outreach. So you don't have to blast things as far. You can be more targeted in your approach and make sure that that targeted message is actually more relevant to me as a person.
That's a great answer. Yeah, relevance grows ever more important the easier things get, right? Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, it's like it's the same scale problem that we had when we did print flyers in the mail, which is where email marketing started. And then email marketing came around and it's like, oh, this is a lot easier. We can do a lot of it. And then so we did a lot of it and we're like, oh, that's not really great because now it's spammy, literally the word spam, email spam, and then consolidate back down. So you got to rest on like the things that brought you here.
Mhm. All right, here's another one. I'll just ask this of either of you and see who feels more equipped to or best to answer. What it says, we struggle with data silos across our different channels. Is it better to wait for unified data or just dive in and learn as we go?
I can jump in on this one too. Data silos are real. And it's something that's been around for a while. It, I would argue that there's never going to be unified data. Maybe that's a hot take, but like that's we've been trying to get unified data for as long as we had databases, I think. And so it's never going to be truly unified. Can you keep doing steps to get more and more unification? Absolutely, right? Like the enterprise data warehouses, the big data lakes, all those different things. Those are all things that are helping this go. And so you need to have a little bit of both is really the answer, as it always is. But do you need to wait for this perfect unified data set? No. Should you start to try to unify your data? Yes. And so it's a little bit more in that learn as you go pathway because you got to start to do something. It goes back to my point of you got to start somewhere. You got to start experimenting. If you just keep waiting and waiting for something to get perfect, it's just going to take too long. I mean, Mallory, I know you've probably experienced this too.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what you said. Just everything's moving so fast that I don't think you can really necessarily wait for perfect data, and like is perfect data fallacy to begin with, like Pranay was saying. Um, and I know, a lot of brands are, moving toward cloud data warehouses and zero copy tools to kind of solve for this so they can, connect their AI tools directly to where their data lives right now. So yeah, I would double click on what you said.
Yeah, it's like hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Hope for unified data, prepare for continued fragmentation.
Totally. Totally.
Well, okay, here's one. I For both of you, it seems like customers want personalization but don't want to share their data. How are brands successfully convincing people to opt in and share more info?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this one earlier. I mean, I think some like actual tactical things that I think I see customers doing is some pre-prompting. So before you ask for the data, you kind of lay the foundation work of that. That can come in a bunch of different ways. It can come through messaging over a series of messages, like here's what we're doing, here's how we do things. It's about sharing who you are as a brand, I think. Like you go look at Apple does this well of like they have a brand to themselves and you know what Apple stands for and you know that they stand for privacy and that's just something that they've built over the years. So it's not going to take overnight, but those are the things that you can do as a brand to like have a brand identity that has trust built into it that then allows those things to happen. But then more tactically for everything that you're going to ask, pre-prompting for it and having a message or having some contextualization as to why you're asking for that, I think helps a ton. And that can come in of a multitude of different forms, but a lot of it is in like in product interstitials, pop-ups, messages, content, banners. So those type of things, in my opinion, that I've seen success in.
I'm
Yeah, and
sorry.
just to,
Yeah.
to
No,
add,
please.
oh, sorry, Peter.
No, no, please. I'd love to.
Um, yeah, and just in terms of like the message you're sending, again, just be upfront with your customers about why you're asking for this information. Be as specific as you possibly can. Um, and, let them know why it will improve their experience. So like share your location so we can suggest, what's in stock nearby, for example. And then just wanted to reiterate that consumers, I think in this climate where they have a lot of distrust, making sure that they know how they can control what they share with you with preference centers and surveys and things like that, I just think can't be undervalued as well.
The other thing, sorry, before we go on, one of the other things that I think gets lost is that you actually probably have a lot of data, you just don't realize it. So, for example, um, I'm not actually a lawyer, so this is a hypothetical example, but you could go find out a bunch of things about me and find out that I was a lawyer and do all these different things. Or let's say you're Microsoft Word or you're a document creator or whatever. That's your product, right? You could just look at my usage history of your product and say, oh, I look at 20-page documents and use the redlining feature like it's my job, because it's actually my job. That in itself tells me more than anything that you need to go know about me. And so I think we sometimes paralyze ourselves and saying, well, I need to know more about them to get personalized. You actually have a lot you know about them. You just haven't had access to that signal. And I think in today's world, by bringing in some of those data silos we were talking about earlier, but then having AI to be able to process those data signals in a more expansive way is going to give way more insights to learn things like I act like a lawyer. I do things like a lawyer. I may not even be a lawyer. Maybe I'm a paralegal. Maybe I'm whatever. Maybe I'm a CEO of a startup and I'm just doing my own legal terms. Who knows? But I act and look like a lawyer. So market to me like a lawyer. Tell me about features that a lawyer would use about my product without ever knowing that I have a JD and I went this and did that. You don't need to know all those different things. You just need to know how I interact with you as a brand. And that's data that you already have. I'm already giving that to you.
That's great. It looks like we've got one more to end the discussion on. So this question, again, I think for both of you, I'd love to get both of your perspectives on this. Today's discussion focused a lot on B2C and retail. Do you have a point of view on the B2B perspective?
Mallory lives the B2B perspective, so I'll let her answer in a second. But I do think a lot of this applies to businesses as well, right? Like you're seeing the same things happen, whether it's AEO or GEO or SEO or any of those type of things. The same things we just talked about as a B2C, consumers going to these AI places to go learn about your products and services. Those exact same people, because at the end of the day, this is why I always joke about B2B. B2B to who? It's still to a C. It's still to a person. At the end of the day, B2B is to a person, and that individual, that person is still doing the same things that they do in the consumer space, but they're doing it for bigger B2B software type of places. So the same scenarios apply, but Mallory gets to live this day in and day out. So
Yeah, I mean, you stole my thunder, but I was going to say, I feel like more than ever, like the distinction between B2B and B2C is kind of like fading away. 'Cause just so many of the same principles and like urgencies apply. So, um, yeah, I don't have like any specific magical solution for what B2B should be doing that's different. I just think it's a lot of the same stuff, if I'm honest. But if whomever asked this great question wants to connect with me on LinkedIn and chat about it more, I'd be happy to mind meld on this topic.
the other part was retail versus not. I think, look, all these industries can learn from each other, and they're all at different parts of the hyper curve of adoption and disruption and all these different things. And so that's always going to be available to you to go learn from each other. And so that's something that we always strive to do as well.
Those are great answers. Yeah, we talk a lot internally here about the blurring of the line between B2C and B2B and how just, all the channels are being flooded and trying to reach a lot of other people because, yeah, we're at the end of B2B is still a B2C. Well, Pranay and Mallory, thank you again for this really great discussion and answering these questions from our audience. We really appreciate it. Before we close, let me take a moment to tell you about eMarketer's media channels. Mark your calendars for eMarketer's next virtual summit happening on Friday, March 20th. The summit will focus on commerce media trends, featuring Vice President and Principal Analyst Sarah Marzano and leaders from Gildan, Bayer, Purdue Farms, and more. You can secure your spot, register for more webinars like this, and preview our 2026 summit lineup all at emarketer.com. For more eMarketer content, subscribe to our newsletters and check out our podcasts, including In the Game, our new monthly podcast on sports marketing. You can listen on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you all for joining us today, and thanks again to Pranay and Mallory. Thank you all so much. Thanks to the team at Braze. Thank you to our eMarketer studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all in the next Tech Talk. Thank you all very much.